Good morning, everybody. This is Christiana with the Longmont Yarn Shop, and welcome to week 4 of our Crochet Month videos. Today, I am going to be showing you colorwork crochet, and please feel free at any time to make comments or ask any questions. I'll be watching the comments column, and I will do my very best to answer your questions during the live video. If I'm not able to get to them, I will message you all later. So I love colorwork crochet. I love the fact that you can crochet with multiple colors at once, and really you can achieve a similar look to like the knitted Fair Isle. So for example, here I have, this is the Cooper Gap cowl, which is a design by Melissa Leapman, who was our Fiberside guest on Sunday. And this is an example of what can be accomplished with colorwork. So here you're using, at any given time in this project, you're using 2 colors at the same time. So here, here, and so on, all the way up to the top. So this is an example of colorwork crochet in the round. And then here, this is a shawl that I designed. And it's on display right now for a crochet trunk show. There we go. So here I used 2 colors in every row, and believe it or not, you guys, this design I actually adapted from a colorwork book for knitted fabric, not for crocheted. So it's easily adaptable from a knitting chart into a crocheting chart. So I used the black and the purple in the same row. So those are the 2 different types of colorwork you can do, in the round or back and forth. So first I'm going to show you how to do this in the round. And forgive me, I'm getting a little used. We got a new arm for our iPad, so I'm getting a little used to it. So what I'm working on here is a bag. Out of respect for the designer, I'm keeping the pattern off of the camera feed. It's a copyrighted pattern, but I can tell you it's by Vincent Williams, and it is available on both his website and Ravelry. So you can see here I've already established my colorwork. I'm just using a teal and a silver. So the teal is Dream in Color Cosette, and the silver is Wool Pop. And here, let me show you the bottom of the bag real quick. Sorry, I keep bumping the arm here. Hold still. There we go. Oh, yay, Edwina. I love this cowl. This is so much fun, and it is a good introduction to colorwork if you have not yet done crochet colorwork. I made this out of moonshine, which is incredibly soft and incredibly luxurious, and it works well for this cowl because it's a great fiber to wear next to your skin. Alrighty, so here's the bottom of the bag. Oh, there's a little fuzzy there. So I'm working on, so that's the bottom or the gusset. So right now I'm just working on the top of the bag. So, or I guess the body of the bag would be a better word for it. So when you're crocheting with 2 colors at once, what you want to do is, thank you, Nancy, hold the fiber that you are not using or not crocheting with parallel to your work. So this particular pattern, I'm working in the back part of the stitch only, so I'm not going through both top loops. And so my next stitch, I need to make the teal color again. So what I'm going to do is insert my hook into the back loop and pick up the color I am not currently crocheting with at the same time. And this is a single crochet. Typically with colorwork, you're going to use singles as opposed to any of the taller stitches because the single covers the non-working fiber better than a taller stitch, because the taller stitch is going to be more open. So I'm going to complete my single crochet like normal. Actually, right now I need to pick up the color I'm not using because I need to switch colors. How about that? So the next 3 stitches I need to use just the silver color. So I'm going to again insert into the back loop, picking up the back loop of the stitch and the yarn I'm not using at the same time and crocheting over it. So again, stabbing into the back loop, holding the non-working color parallel to my work and working around both the stitch and the yarn at the same time. So that's what's preventing me from getting any floats here. So if you notice I don't have any floats here, it's because I'm working around both the stitch and the yarn. So now I need to change colors. So I'm going to stab into the back loop only, working around both the stitch and the yarn. Do my single crochet, and then I'm going to drop the color I was using and switch to the new color. So now I just need to do one teal. So I'm going around both the stitch and the yarn I'm not using, dropping the yarn that I am using to switch colors. So I need to do a couple more stitches, and eventually you kind of get into a groove here. It's a lot easier when I'm holding this a little closer to my face. Right now I'm looking at it through the camera, so I've got a little bit of a delay. So now I need to switch back to my teal. And then switch back to my silver. And then I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around. And this design is charted out, so I'm just following the chart. Again, I'm keeping it off camera for respect of the copyright of the designer. And I'm just going to do this around. Because this is a bag, I do have the gusset up the side, so that I'm not doing the pattern. However, I am carrying the color that I am not using. The reason, if you're working in the round, why you want to keep carrying the color that you're not using all the way around is because, let's say I drop my silver yarn here and just work with the teal. Well, yeah, I could have a bobbin of the silver hanging right here, but if I get around here, drop my silver and work with just the teal, well, oops, I get around to the beginning of the round and the silver that I dropped earlier is over here. So that doesn't work. So that's why you carry the non-working color all the way around, even if you're not using it, if you're crocheting in the round. I love doing color work in the round because there's a very clear public versus private side to your work. So this would be the public side and this would be the private side. So I would be carrying my non-working color around in the back. And seeing as I'm working in a bag, on a bag, when the bag gets big enough, I just keep my yarn in the bag while I'm working. Do you recommend using a Lifeline in color crochet? I'm a newbie. Edwina, you know, honestly, you can if you want to. I don't, just because crochet is easy enough to take out as compared to knitting, because you're only taking, if you have to rip out, you're only ripping out one stitch at a time. So I find it's a lot easier to find your place if you do make a mistake. So I personally don't use a Lifeline, but if you feel that you need to, absolutely do what makes you comfortable. So this is crocheting in the round, crochet color work. So your non-working color is always going to be towards the back of your work. Well, you might be sitting there saying, well, Christiana, I'm working on a piece that is flat, that I have to work one side and then come back and work the other. So kind of like this guy here. Well, excellent question. I have a little charted out design here. And just for funsies, I thought a magic 8 ball would be fun. So when you would use a going back and forth technique as opposed to crocheting in the round would be like if you were doing a shawl or a blanket or something you would have to piece together like a sweater. So what you need to do if you're working back and forth with this chart, all of the odd rows will be my front facing rows. and all of the even numbered rows will be my back side rows. So you're still going to hold your yarn towards the back of your work, but it just takes a different technique to, oops, sorry, keep bumping the camera. It just takes a different technique when you are on the back side. So I'm going to go ahead and join my black yarn. So when you're changing colors, it's just the same for you crochet newbies as joining a new yarn. You always want to join in the last step of the stitch. So what I mean by that, let me pull back here, is if I'm doing a single crochet, I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook, pull up a loop. So I've got the 2 loops on my hook. So the last step of your single crochet would be wrapping and pulling through both loops. So my last step in my single crochet is I'm going to join my new color. And remember to leave a tail to weave in. We never, ever, ever tie knots in our finished projects. So again, here, I'm going to carry the working yarn while I'm crocheting. So I'm lining it up parallel with my work. And this one, I'm just going to go ahead and work like normal. So I'm not going to work in the back loop only. So I already marked here that there are 7 black stitches, so you all wouldn't have to sit here and watch me count. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So for this little guy, I'm just using some ultra wool I had lying around that from projects I'd already finished. So here's where front and working back and forth differs from working in the round. Now I can just drop the color that I'm not using because I'm going to be turning my work around, so that yarn's already going to be where I need it to be. So I don't need to keep carrying it. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish my row. I know this makes for great entertainment watching me do single crochets. So for those of you who have never used the ultra wool, we kind of refer to it as our workhorse yarn. Hey Mom! It's great for sweaters, it's great for accessories, it's great for blankets, and because it is a superwash wool, it is very easy care. So if I were just going to make a bunch of random squares with random designs on them and turn them into a blanket, I would definitely use my leftover ultra wool. Colorwork is a great way to use up scraps too, kind of like your granny squares. Alrighty, so seeing as this is single crochet, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. So I've already counted this out. I did 2 stitches as kind of selvage edge, and then I've got 9 white squares here, so 9 stitches. And even if I didn't count them out, I knew that I would need to join my black yarn again 3 stitches before. So I would just go 1, 2, 3. So here's where my black stitches would start. So I'd need to start or join my black yarn in the 4th stitch before the black stitches on the previous row. So in this case too, if you have a number of stitches difference between where you drop the yarn as opposed to where you need to pick it up, you can certainly carry it like 3 more stitches. So I'll show you what I mean by that when we get to the other side of the magic 8 ball here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so now I need to drop my white yarn and pick up my black yarn. So you're going to notice, because there is a difference there, there's going to be a little bit of a float, but we can work the float in. And by float, I mean this yarn right here that's stretching from the last stitch that I crocheted to where I joined my black yarn. So now I know that I need to crochet with my black yarn until 2 stitches past the black yarn, the black stitches here. So I need to go here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep, because I'm on the back side of my color work, I want to keep my non-working yarn at the front of my work. So let's go ahead, and I'm at the same time working over the yarn and the float. So by holding it towards the front, because I am on the back, if any of this little bit of white pops through the black, it's going to be on the back of my project and not the front side. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've got my working yarn and my float that I'm working in. So I've worked in the float. If you do have to do a float, make sure that you're not pulling it too tightly, because if you pull it too tightly, it's going to cause your work to pucker in. So I'd rather you leave a nice loose float and kind of have to play with it a little to even it out, than have a tight float and have your work pucker. If your work starts to pucker, there's no way to fix it. You have to take it back out and redo it. That's both true for knitting and crocheting. So I'm going to work all the way across, and I'm again keeping my non-working yarn at the front of my project because I am on a back side row. So you could probably see here better what I mean about working into the stitch and working around the yarn at the same time. Because I'm having to, because the yarn's at the front of my work, I'm having to pick up the non-working yarn before I insert my hook. Alrighty, so now I know I need to do 2 stitches beyond where I ended last time, and there's my little tail there that I'm going to weave in when I'm done. Okay, there's 2. So now I'm going to bring my non-working yarn, or the yarn that I'm dropping, to the back of my project, so the side that's facing me currently. Pick up the white yarn and complete the stitch. So to avoid the float, because I'm using such a stark contrast yarn, the white versus the black, I would rather work in a float than carry my yarn. But if you wanted to carry the yarn up to where you need it in the next row, so I'm going to need it 2 stitches over from where it is right now, you can go ahead and work into the stitch and work around that yarn for the 2 stitches that I need. And then you can go ahead and drop the yarn and then finish the row like normal. So when I come back to do my color work on row 3, the yarn is already where I need it. However, I don't like the fact that the black's kind of poking through a little bit. If these 2 colors were a little less contrasted, I would go ahead and carry my yarn over. But I would rather work in the float on the next row because I can work it into the color work. So then I would work the rest of the round like normal. So the only difference would be is when I get up here to where the actual 8-ball design is. That's when you would introduce the white back in the middle of the design and then finish with the black. So this is a relatively simple design. I would just work white, 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 and then I get to the black and it's all black all the way across. So I would carry my white, and then when I get to the edge, I would drop my black yarn, leave it where it is, and then finish the row in white. So that is crochet color work, my friends, and I hope that this has been informative, and I don't see any more questions, but I'll go ahead and keep chatting for another few seconds so that if any questions or comments need to be said, I can get to them before I end the video. But I would really recommend giving this a try. It is not as hard as it looks when, you know, on the completed project. It's really simple, really fun, and it's just a great way to introduce a little bit of pizzazz to your crochet projects. Again, if you're a little bit more on the advanced side, I would recommend checking out Vincent Williams' patterns on Ravelry or his website. They are a little bit more on the advanced side, so I would recommend starting out with something a little bit simpler before you jump into that. There are some great, I've seen some awesome sweaters where it's kind of like a plain yarn, and then they pop in a little intarsia design. So that's what this is called. This is called intarsia because I'm putting it inside my project. And it's just really, really fun. I love, love crochet colorwork. And I recommend you all give it a try. So I'm not seeing any further comments or questions popping up on my feed. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks, Nancy. And if you have any questions after we are done here, feel free to email the shop or call in, or just send us a message on Facebook tagging this video. And that is all I have for you guys today. I hope to see you all later, and have a lovely afternoon. Bye.